everyone, and welcome to another Let's Get Jolly with Jodie. This is the 15th podcast, and this is going to be the last one of the year, and we thought that it'd be quite nice and quite apt to get Tracy on, because Tracy was the first podcast, all them 15 plus weeks ago, which is madness, I think. And we decided, well, Tracy came up with this idea actually to sort of reverse the roles, and Tracy's going to ask me questions and you're all sort of going to learn a little bit more about me rather than me asking the questions to all the guests. So I hope that you like it, and I hope you get to hear more of my annoying little voice in this one. So I'll hand over to you, Tracy. So if you just want to introduce yourself for anyone that didn't see the first podcast so that they know what you do in the college.
Yeah. So I'm Tracy Underwood. I used to do what Jodie does, but now I'm part of the counselling courses teaching team at the college, and I'm also a qualified therapist.
Lovely. Okay, so I'll hand over to you. I'm in your capable hands.
So we turn the tables, my friend. Okay, so I've come up with some questions that I think might, people would like to hear your view, as you've been asking all the questions so far. So let's see how it goes, shall we? So as people know that I used to do enrichment, and now it's your gig and you're doing it amazingly well and everything like that, and I'm very jealous, as we all know. Okay. So my first question is around enrichment.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, because a lot of people don't know what enrichment means to the college, so talk to me about, what do you think enrichment is?
Yeah, so the biggest thing sort of since I've started doing this role is that I thought enrichment was, your guest speakers and all those things, and it is the guest speakers, and there's lots of things that within the college we have to sort of show the learners in regards to certain topics such as sort of mental health, substance misuse, sexual health, all those things, and all those things were included in my job. But what I realised was that enrichment can sort of mean anything to anybody. So what I think is enriching, necessarily like the students don't think is enriching. So something that I've wanted to do since taking on the role is try and sort of flip it on its head a little bit and almost come away from the guest speakers as the main priority of the role and do things that the learners want to do. So obviously my idea when I took the job and when I went for the interview, one of the big things that I talked about was that I wanted to do what the learners wanted to do. So whether that was a group of learners had a 4-hour gap, what do you want to do in that 4-hour gap, and let's go do it, and sort of be a bit more spontaneous with the role, and take them out and go to Inflate a Nation around the corner, or do those really random things, and just put fun into their college day. So they've got their curriculum, but actually they can come to me and they know that there's something going on all the time. And that's ideally how I wanted the role to go. But obviously, as everybody is aware, I haven't actually been able to do that because of COVID. So the students obviously will get their qualification, but also I wanted to give them some life skills and teach them a little bit about things that they necessarily didn't know they wanted to know. So something I want to do is teach them how to change a bike tire or change a fuse in a plug, all those things that you don't know how to do, and no one really teaches you until actually, a fuse has gone in my plug and how do I do it? And I don't want any of the learners to be, like I was never taught that at college or school or anything. So I always, relied on my dad. Like, Dad, could you come and fix this? So I want to be able to teach the learners, something outside of their main curriculum area. So for me, enrichment is whatever the learners want, but also just about making their lives a little bit more fulfilled and actually taking some skills away from college that aren't necessarily their main programme, basically.
Cool. So I used to look at it, anything outside of the curriculum you can call enrichment. So, and it is about opening their little horizons a little bit more about what's out there, and as you say, life skills about whether it's to do with cooking or looking after themselves or whatever it is. Yeah. So far, Jode, what do you think your biggest achievement would be?
I would probably say my biggest achievement is these podcasts. I think that was just an idea that in the first lockdown I started doing some blogs for the learners, and writing the struggles that I was having, and hopefully just giving them a little bit more, you know, letting them realise that actually it wasn't just them that was struggling with sleep and routine and all those things. And it was just something that I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to Vicky Patterson's podcast, and I really, really enjoyed it because it was something that I could put on, go for a walk with the dog, or just put on while I was doing some work or whatever. And it was just something I was like, well, maybe I could do that. And I actually spoke to one of the learners, one of the media learners, George, and he has featured on one of the podcasts. And I just said to him, how hard would it be to do, like, to do a podcast? Do you need certain software, things like that? And he was like, well, you do, but you could possibly just do it through Teams and literally just record the interview. And I thought, well, actually, I could probably do that. And I genuinely, this is no word of a lie, I thought it'd last probably 3-4 weeks. I'd probably get a month out of it, and then no one would keep listening. But actually, you know, everybody, you know, staff, students, even some outside agencies that I work with, you know, they've seen them shared on the Facebook page and they're like, God, they're really, really good. And here we are, like 15 weeks on. So, and I've spoken to a lot of colleagues and students, and they all want them to come back next year. So hopefully they'll be back next year. But yeah, that's definitely probably one of my biggest achievement in the role, because like I say, I haven't been able to do my job properly. But this is something that I've been able to like really get my teeth into and think about what the learners really want to listen to, and hopefully I've given them a bit of a laugh along the way as well.
But what you've done, you've adapted to the situation, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's what you've done. You've adapted. You've thought, right, I can't be on site, so what can we do online?
Yeah, and I think this is just a real good way of engaging with learners without actually them having to attend anything. You know, they can listen to this podcast. Some people will be on the first podcast, some people will be on the 5th one, and you know, and so on. And it doesn't matter in which order they've listened to them in. They might not have listened to all of them, they've only listened to some of them that are interesting to them. And that's the whole point, is that not every podcast will have, you know, related to every learner, but actually I'm hoping in the 15 that we've done, at least 1 or 2 of them has, and they've been able to, you know, listen to them and just get a little bit of information, advice or whatever from them. And like you say, it just gives them sort of 15-20 minutes or however long they've been to just listen and hear a familiar voice, especially in the lockdowns when you've been at home with, you know, just your parents. It gives you that escape, doesn't it? To hear my very squeaky voice.
Yes, you're very squeaky voice. So what do you get out of your job then? What do you get out of it?
So I think definitely from yesterday and from the podcast, I get a massive like sense of achievement from seeing learners, you know, having fun and having a laugh. I was saying to Melanie yesterday, we was all stood outside, we was having our lunch outside, and I said, isn't it just nice to see all of the learners just sat, you know, in their groups, having their lunch, getting up, having a play on the assault course, you know, having some sweets. There was a student listening to playing some music and stuff. It was just nice for them to be outside and socializing and getting to know each other. And there was learners that were talking to each other that wouldn't necessarily speak to each other in the college. And that was really nice, and that was a massive sense of achievement. I was like, this has taken me weeks and weeks and weeks to plan, but for one day I got to just sit back and be like, well, I've done it all now. You know, I've done all the stressing, I've done all the running around, and actually for that one day that event goes ahead, I actually get to sort of sit back and just enjoy it. And it's really, really nice to see. And like I say, the podcasts as well, it's nice just to think that you're making a difference to somebody's life, whether that's this big difference or this big difference. You know, it's nice just to think that I put a lot of effort into the work that I do, and I really want to help young people and, you know, just share my story with them, and hopefully, you know, allow them to know that everybody goes through rubbish times, and you can get through the other side. So yeah, so that's probably what I get from my job.
Okay, so if I had a magic wand,
oh god,
and there was no barriers, there was no limits, what event would you like to put on?
Oh, if you had a magic wand, so and there was no barriers, nothing.
No limits to money or to space or to time, what would you want?
I would probably take lots and lots of learners to Florida, probably, I'd probably take them to Florida, get them all on a plane, and stay over in Florida and just go around every single Disney site going, because I just think it'd be awesome, and it'd be great to see them all like mixing with each other. It's like cross sites as well, because I do think that we should do more like cross site things, because the students that are at Brid and the students that are at Beverley and the students that are at Hull, I think it'd be nice to see them all integrate and have a chat and talk about their sort of experiences within the college. I do think that even though we're, you know, everyone, there's not really they do integrate in their courses at each site. So, you know, it's not like you stay within your course sector really. You know, they're all quite sociable and stuff. But I do think across sites should mix a little bit more. So yeah, so if there was no barriers whatsoever, then probably that'd be my dream enrichment activity, is to take the learners to Florida and go around all the things. But I know that that's never going to happen.
Okay, so let's just scale it down then. Maybe not Florida. Let's just scale it down and just think on one of the sites.
Yeah.
So we're not flying anywhere, Jode.
All right, okay. Well, you said a magic one.
Sites, whether it's Bedfordton, Hull, wherever. What would you do?
Probably like a mass version of what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I'd get some real cool fairground rides, some like that inflatable assault course, you know, a food van, a big food area, a bit like a country show basically, but in regards to like a big fair. It'd be
like
I'd love to have, like a festival, festival, and some music going and all sorts of things like that. I'd love to be able to do like a mini festival, and it'd be, the site that you could probably do that at is Bridlington, because we've got the space outside. So if anyone's listening that works upstairs, you know, that we could do that. I'm quite happy to plan that.
Yeah, you know, I'm quite happy to contact Robbie or whoever you need, you know.
That's it, you see, and Tracy can be my sidekick. She can come back downstairs for a day.
One night only. Yeah.
One night only. Tracy's back as the enrichment officer.
So, a bit more serious, or maybe not. How have you managed during COVID?
I'm very, very lucky that we got to keep working. Even though it was really hard being at home and not being with all the people that we work with, because as you know, like everyone that you work with makes going to work, you know, it doesn't, and the students as well, you know, the students have always, I've never, you know, not wanted to go to work because of the students, because there's a lot of students that, you know, I really, really get on with and have real good relationships with. So it was hard being at home away from all of that. But I was very lucky that I could still have that little routine. So, and able to, had a little bit of structure, you know. Yes, obviously, I'm not saying, and I won't get sacked, I'm sure. I'm not saying I was sat on my computer from 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock every day, but you know, the work was done and I had things to do, and you know, I did the blogs and made sure that I kept in touch with the students that needed to be in touch with. Personally, I think I'm very, very lucky that I have a horse and a dog. If I didn't have those things, I don't know how I'd have coped. I mean, I'd have probably turned into one of these crazy walkers that go out in every weather, because I needed to get outside. So I was very lucky that I have, you know, the horse literally 20 steps over the road, and obviously the dog, and I live in the countryside, so there's lots of places to go walking and riding and those things. So I had a lot of structure. It was hard, obviously, not being able to see my mum or my dad or anything, because I'm very, very close with them. But yeah, I mean, the wonders of technology, I suppose. You know, I video called them every day, as everyone did. We held like Zoom quizzes and things like that. So yeah, but I coped okay. I think I had really, really hard days. But those hard days, I just made sure that, you know, I looked after myself. You know, I ran myself a bath, or I didn't punish myself for sitting and watching a full day's worth of box sets, because if that's what I needed to do, then that's what I needed to do to look after myself. But there wasn't many days that I didn't get outside, and that is something that I've talked about a lot, is just getting outside, even if it's for 10 minutes. Even if I walked around the block for 10 minutes, I would feel so much better about myself, because it's so hard that not going to work and coming home. Sometimes that was what I missed the most, was going to work and coming home, because home was work. And then I was like, well, I don't have a home anymore, because walking from my kitchen table to my front room it's not the same, because every time I came in for a cup of tea, everything, all my work was still sat on the sides, and it was, or emails were pinging, and I was like, oh, I can't have a lunch break because I need to get to that email or whatever. So so I just made sure that I kept sort of in touch with my friends, and when I was having a bad day, generally I phoned Tracy and told her about it. But yeah, I coped a lot better than some people, but I did have really bad days. So, and I'm not gonna lie and be the person, you know, that says, oh no, I was absolutely fine. I wasn't. I had really rubbish days, and I had some really horrible personal things happen in that time. But I just made sure that I kept in touch with what was going on inside of me, and got the help that I needed at the times that I needed it. So yeah, it was rubbish as it was with everybody, but I think I've come out of it the other side, and hopefully we all do.
And then you go and put on a fab event like yesterday, so you're off and running. You're off and running.
Yeah.
So what's been your biggest learning point, do you think? What's your learning in your role?
Well, probably that I can sort of adapt to what's going on. You know, I can think outside the box. That's, you know, that this podcast situation and the blogs and all those things, they were my ideas. Nobody gave me them ideas. And yes, in the podcast, people have helped me along the way in regards to, I got to sort of week 5 and was like, Jesus, I weren't thinking I was going this long, and I've run out of ideas, and I needed to bounce ideas off people, and they helped me with who to interview and like what to talk about. But those were my ideas, and I came up with them, and I put the work in, and, you know, did all those things. And I actually realized, well, I can think outside the box, and I can, you know, I don't have to, what was in my head as what this job was going to be has been nowhere near what this job has been. So my biggest learning thing is probably that to believe in me.
I second that. Second that. Believe in you. So you've talked a little bit about what you've done through COVID. You know, you've got Rainy, your horse, you've got, you know, your pooch and everything like that, and the people around you that you knew who to ring when you needed it, and when you needed your box set days and everything like that. So the question is, how do you look after your mental health? So do you want to add anything, or is that how you do look after your mental health?
Yeah, that is how I look after my mental health. I mean, I have, as with everybody that's listened to these podcasts and blogs and whatever, I've had lots of rubbish times in my life, and my horse has been the only thing that's, you know, kept you going. That's the only thing that's been stable to me. And, you know, people say someone messaged me this morning actually, because I put on, I'm a big Instagrammer and Facebook story person, and I put my life on there, and some people, I'm sure they think, Jodie, please stop telling me what you've done every day. But I like to sort of put on there what I've done during the day. And I was out riding the horse early this morning before work, and I do that, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. I like to be up at sort of 5 and get the horse done before work, because I'm better in the morning than I am after work. But they all say to me, how do you do that? How do you get up at that time? Well, I get up at that time because that's how I set my day up. You know, if I haven't ridden my horse, if I have a lie in, and it sounds really, really bad, and lions are really good. I like a lion on a morning, on a weekend. But if I don't get up before work and go ride that horse, I don't start my day as well as I do when I get up and ride the horse, because I'm much more awake, I'm much more with it, my mind's going, rather than me getting up at 7, getting in my car at 7:30 and getting to work for 8:30. I've only had that. Whereas if I get up at 5, I've had near enough 3.5 hours till I get to work, and then my mind's actually ticking, and I'm like, right, well, I'm ready for this now. Whereas if I've only been up for an hour and then I get into work and there's a big drama going on, I'm like, oh God, I can't cope with this. I need coffee before I do anything. So that's how I look after my mental health, by having a routine. That is my biggest thing, is have a routine and stick to it. And by all means, on a weekend, I can be lazy. I can have a day where I don't get dressed, I don't go ride the horse, I don't do anything. But during the week, I need to have that routine, just in order to look after me, because otherwise I will then come home. I know if I don't ride in the morning, I'll come home from work and I don't want to do it because I'm tired. I've done a full day at work. I've then got the horse to do, the dog to walk, you know, the house to do, all those things that come with being an adult and having a house to do. And actually, the last thing that I want to do is go out, because the thing with the horse is it's not like walking the dog for 10 minutes. You have to be over there for a minimum of an hour. So and then I feel bad all night then because I'm like, oh, I didn't go right. I mean, really couldn't care less. I'm sure she's loving life in the field for an extra hour. But yeah, so my biggest thing for my personal mental health is I need to be in a routine.
Okay. And so last question, which is linked, because this is what you ask everybody at the end of your podcast.
Yes.
So back at you now. What is your top tip to any learner?
Probably what I said before is, believe in yourself. If you want to do something, then no matter what your friends say, what your parents say, what anybody says, what your tutor says, that's what you want to do, then go do it. And if you're finding it hard one way, there is always another way around it. And there's plenty of people, especially in regards to the learners that come to our college, there's plenty of people in the college that are willing to find that way that works for you. And yeah, just believe in yourself, because if I had believed in myself at 16, I probably wouldn't have gone through the things that I've gone through. So don't get to 28 and then start believing in yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my biggest top tip for any learner that's coming to us, that's not even with us, but that's listening to this podcast. Any young person, just believe in yourself, because there's only you that's going to get you through the rest of your life. Nobody else is.
Or anybody listening.
Yeah, anybody, anyone, any member of staff, anybody that's listening. My mum listens to these podcasts religiously, so there you go. She said in the first podcast I gave my dad a shout out, so my mum will be really happy that I've given her a shout out in this one.
Good. Well, that's the end of my questions, my lovely friend.
Lovely. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome, and well done for the podcast idea. You played a blinder. It was really good. So let's hope that you continue in September with some new guests and see what happens from September. And
and I just want to say, obviously, before we sort of end it, and is thanks to anybody that's being a guest on the podcast. Yes, it was my idea, but it wouldn't have been a podcast without all of you guests. And hopefully the learners got a lot from it. And if any of them have got any ideas of who to sort of interview next year, or that you want on the podcast, that you want some more information on, anything like that, then just sort of come and see me, drop me an email, whatever, and we'll try and get it on. But yeah, that's the end of the Let's Get Jolly with Jodie podcasts for this academic year. And then hopefully we'll return next year. So thank you very much, Tracy. That was really, really good.
You're welcome.
And I'll hopefully see a lot of the learners next year.
Yeah. Thank you, love. Take care.
Thank you.